Welcome to the quest for the Green Bull, the rise of Ralu Azath. It was a wild and insane ride, but we made it. 6 teams remain in the hunt to claim the Green Bull Championship. There will be a new champion in 2022, and whoever wins will be the first title of their careers. So much going on this week, including our continuing fight that will determine the fate of humanity, and we will start with the Championship Brackets! But before we dive into the juicy matchups in the quarterfinals, it's time we learn about the Temple of the Dream Priests from the Dream Priests themselves.
The Temple of the Dream Priests was created on Callisto, another moon of Jupiter. The sole purpose was to monitor the dimensional points within Jupiter and all of the corresponding weak points on its moons. The Elders, who control the Master Realm and are the creators of the Order of Light, were in an endless war with Tsitak the battle of balance versus chaos in all of the universes. Whoever controls the Master Realm controls everything, and each universe is stacked and created based on decisions in space and time throughout the vast spectrum of possibilities. At first, the Master Realm is all that there was, but the two races that existed continued to diverge. The Elders and Tsitak. This is why the Great War raged on. Portals were opened like broken windows, allowing items to spill over and create new realms. Tsitak took it as an advantage and spread chaos to corrupt. The Elders could not let this happen and established the Order of Light, recruiting civilizations to join in the quest to halt chaos and preserve balance. Keep life as something with endless possibilities. We Dream Priests were some of the lucky ones to be visited by the Elders. At first, we believed them to be gods. We later realized that there are no gods and devils, only the beings within the chaos and the balance. We chose balance. We chose light. We were sent to several places and we were succeeding until the shadows came here in search of a relic. This relic, this fantasy football trophy called the Green Bull, was actually a part of a plan by the Elders to imprison Tsitak and take them out of existence. We believe the plan to have worked when the new universe was created, after a group of 12 individuals led by Remember the Titans brought the shadows to a gate on Earth in a now aborted timeline. But it failed. The group was transported back with memories of what happened, but in this new universe, Tsitak was here as well, hiding away inside another being to avoid detection. But we believed the shadows to be gone, and so did the Elders. We were now tasked with cleaning up the rest of the residual chaos left over and to seal any cracks in the realms where things could seep into. We were sent to the beginning of your universe, the beginning of your time, and slowly cleaned up before eventually finding this gate on Jupiter. We built this temple to be able to study the area and figure out a plan to close the gate. We were given the medallion by the Elders to help. Little did we know that one of our own would be corrupted by the power. The medallion manifested a palace in the magnetic field and gas clouds of Jupiter. The only way to unlock it was a code recreated in this temple on Callisto based on the dimensional points on the other moons. You'll learn more about this palace later, but Tsitak, corrupted by the power of the medallion, secretly unlocked this forbidden palace. Azath was eventually awakened due to this. We banished Tsitak, created the dream machine, and the rest is history. But none of this is what was expected by the elders and the Order of Light. This was not supposed to happen, and we believe the shadows have something to do with it, something that leached into Tsitak's heart. Only 4 of you will make it to Callisto and into our fortress, the Temple of the Dream Priests. 2 are confirmed, and 2 others will be joining soon. You must stop the mechanism. You must stop the Forbidden Palace from being unlocked, and one of our own will help you. You know him as the Earth journalist Mario Costi. Once you reach our temple, he will know what to do next. Follow his lead and you may survive. Good luck.
Okay, so now we know where the semifinals will be held at. Looks like a pretty crazy place. The winners of the quarterfinals will move on to take on the teams with byes, of course. My Dark Ridge Dreamers, the Elite Mother Tuckers. Let's begin with the first of 2 quarterfinals as the Ganymede champion and 3rd-seeded 8-6 multiple scoregasms hosts 7-7 and 6-seeded Siamese Dreamcats, who comes out of the EO division, and this one will be held at the Secret Sea of Galanis. The winner will take on my 2nd-seeded Dark Ridge Dreamers. The Scoregasms enter with a 65.5% chance to win, but something tells me this one could be a lot closer than what the computers expect. I mean, these 2 teams did play each other in week 4, but it was like a million years ago. The Scoregasms crushed the Dreamcats 106.72 to 58.56, but that was during the Scoregasms 5-0 start and the Dreamcats 1-4 start, and that seems like eons ago with how things have gone lately. Another wild stat to throw out there, just because the Dreamcats are 2-5 on the road, struggling a little bit there, while the Scoregasms are 4-3 at home and definitely aren't world beaters there. There are several interesting matchups within these lineups. At quarterback, we get the Josh Allen versus Mike White game. Allen has actually been pedestrian at times lately, but he did torch Miami for 400 yards and a couple of scores last time. White gets a juicy matchup with the Lions, but is battling a ribs injury. Tony Pollard, Ezekiel Elliott, and Isaiah Pacheco versus Jonathan Taylor, Jamal Williams, and James Conner is a battle of running backs where yards and touchdowns could be plentiful for both sides. Williams has the toughest matchup out of the bunch. Devontae Smith versus Chris Olave is a matchup where whoever scores would get the clear advantage, and Gerald Everett has an edge over Dawson Knox, though a Knox touchdown does cancel out an Allen score. The Coup and Colts defense versus McPherson and the 49ers defense are also big areas to watch. Coup has the best matchup out of all of these spots. But the 2 players that will be ones I think can be X factors are at wide receiver. For the visiting Dreamcats, we must take a closer look at Jaguars wide receiver Christian Kirk. Kirk has 874 yards and 7 touchdowns this season. He has had 2 games with multiple touchdowns and 3 games with over 100 yards, so he does have that potential. His best game came against Kansas City, and he gets another good matchup against Dallas. Dallas has allowed 1,900 yards and 14 touchdowns to wide receivers this season. The amount of touchdowns allowed is tied for 6th worst in the league. So if there was a time for Kirk to do well again, this is it. Dallas does score a lot of points, which means that Kirk can get garbage time opportunities. But Dallas does have a defense that has done well lately, and they do like to force turnovers. If Kirk can find the end zone, it would be a huge boost for the Dreamcats to get that big-time upset. But if he's held out of the end zone, it could be the reason why that playoff run ends a little short. For the Scoregasms, the home side trots out Amon-Ra St. Brown, the Sun God. St. Brown's 898 yards and 6 touchdowns this season. 3 of those touchdowns coming in the last 3 weeks, actually. Like Kirk, St. Brown has had multiple touchdowns in 2 games and has had over 100 yards in 4 games, one more than Kirk. He's also been up and down like Kirk, and the Jets' defense is not kind to wide receivers. They have allowed the 3rd least amount of points in fantasy, just 1,543 yards, and they've allowed 10 touchdowns. St. Brown also had one of his big games against Buffalo, though, which is a very good defense as well. And the Detroit offense is playing very well lately. The Jets do have 12 interceptions, and turnovers can limit wide receiver potential, kind of like Kirk on the other side. We can expect for a good game, though, with these two teams. I mean, Detroit's back in the playoff mix. The Jets are definitely in the race as well. A close game here means that St. Brown will get opportunities throughout the entire game. If St. Brown can reach the end zone, it would be huge. It would have a huge impact for the scoregasm. But if he's held without a score, it could open up the chances for the Dreamcats, especially if Kirk does well on the other side. And moving on to the other quarterfinal, where both teams are 7-7, we get 4th-seeded AR's Ayahuasca Plant hosting 5th-seeded Green Acres at the Peaks of Dracos in a Ganymede versus EO battle. And of course, the winner will take on number 1, the Elite Mother Tuckers. We seem to be in for a fantastic matchup here in this quarterfinal, with Green Acres holding just a 51.7% chance to win. I mean, obviously just a toss-up according to the computers. These two squads played back in Week 5, with AR's Ayahuasca Plant winning 100.08 to 88.06. And another fact, Green Acres is 4-3 on the road, while AR's Ayahuasca Plant's 3-4 at home, so not a really big advantage there. Joe Burrow versus whoever AR's Ayahuasca Plant chooses at quarterback is an edge for Green Acres, but that is one spot that AR's Ayahuasca Plant could also flip the script if they limit the damage or score more. There are several with good matchups on AR's Ayahuasca Plant's side, with David Montgomery, George Kittle, and kicker Daniel Carlson all primed for potential big games. The Denver Broncos also get to face a Kyler Murray-less Arizona team. Devontae Adams looks to do well against a New England team that has struggled against big-name receivers at times. Ron Jones and DK Metcalf both have tough matchups, so those are areas to watch if you're Green Acres. Stephon Diggs and Keenan Allen could help Green Acres in a big way if they do well. Dalton Schultz is going to be needed to score most likely, and Najee Harris will also be looked upon in the flex to make an impact. The kicker Riley Patterson is a good matchup because Dallas is good at stopping touchdowns, but Dallas can also force turnovers and score big, which could limit a kicker. The Saints defense gets to go up against a rookie quarterback on Atlanta, and Dante Foreman has a tough matchup against Pittsburgh, which is better at defense with TJ Watt in the lineup. The two players not mentioned are the two I wanted to highlight as potential X factors here. For the visiting Green Acres squad, it is Ravens running back J.K. Dobbins. Dobbins is a running back that is in a committee on Baltimore. But with Lamar Jackson injured, they are leaning on the running game more. They kind of did that anyway, but even more now. Dobbins was on IR for much of the season, and he didn't have more than 63 total yards in a game earlier this season. But he did score 2 touchdowns against Buffalo, of all teams, back in Week 4. And the thing is, Dobbins came off of IR last week, and he went off for 120 yards and a score against Pittsburgh, essentially being the reason why Green Acres is even in the playoffs. And of course, Dobbins did have 15 rushes, the most he had in any game he played all year. That volume and production is something that can mean good things in certain matchups. Dobbins gets Cleveland this week, which, of course, Cleveland remains the 3rd worst when it comes to points allowed to running backs. The 14 touchdowns on the ground are tied for the worst in the league, and the 1,480 yards allowed is 7th worst in the league. But again, the Ravens have Gus Edwards and Kenyon Drake and still run bootlegs with the backup quarterback. They also go with the hot hand, meaning whoever is doing well early will get the carries, so there's always a risk. If Dobbins has a similar game to last week, then he can once again be a reason why Green Acres is surviving and advancing. But if he shows inconsistency and struggles, it could be the dagger to the hopes of a 3rd match against the Elite Mother Tuggers in the semifinals. For the home side, AR's Ayahuasca Plant boasts Miles Sanders. Sanders has done well this season, 1,068 rushing yards, 85 receiving yards, and 11 touchdowns. And he's on a tear lately. 2 games over 140 yards and 5 touchdowns in the last 4 games. While he struggles in tough matchups, this isn't one of them. He gets a Chicago team that has allowed 14 touchdowns to fantasy running backs, tied with Cleveland for the worst, and have allowed the 4th most points to fantasy backs. They've also allowed 1,482 yards, which is 6th worst in the league against running backs. And we all know that the Eagles love to use the running game to establish the offense. They love zone reads and bootlegs and play action, so Sanders will be in the game plan. I mean, let's be honest, but there is a risk. The Eagles have Kenneth Gainwell. They have Boston Scott. They sometimes vulture touchdowns. Hurts can also run for touchdowns himself inside the 5. And of course, there are many weapons for Hurts to throw to. The Bears defense have allowed 11 touchdowns through the air. So that's pretty interesting if Hurts tends to throw. The game is also intriguing with Fields against Hurts. Hurts might want to just do it all himself to prove he's better than Fields. If Sanders can continue to have monster games and good matchups, then AR's ayahuasca plant will probably be getting that big-time rematch against the elite Mother Tuckers with more at stake this time. If Sanders is held out of the end zone, then it could be a disappointing end to an up-and-down season. Regardless of what happens, both of these quarterfinal matchups will be exciting to watch. The stakes are higher, and every point and every touchdown means so much more on this stage. I'm sure the nerves will be high. Of course, we also have 2 consolation quarterfinals going on. First, number 9, 6-8, Loki Lebowski Thor hosts number 12, 3-11, the Stellar Bitches at the Salt Mines of Thorgard in a Europa versus Ganymede battle. The winner will take on the number 8, Remember the Titans, and the Stellar Bitches, who have been strong on the road with a 3-4 record, actually come in with a 69.7% chance to win. Loki Lebowski Thor does have a winning record at home at 4-3, but the Bitches have a 1-2 punch in Kirk Cousins or Dak Prescott, and of course, Derrick Henry. That means that Justin Herbert and Dalvin Cook will need to keep up. Deebo Samuel's injury is a big blow for Lebowski Thor, who may not get him back this season, but he does have Jerry Jeudy and Valdez Scantling on the bench as options to replace him and pair with Amari Cooper. That makes Mike Evans and Gabe Davis big spots for the Stellar Bitches. The battle between Fairbairn and the Bucs defense against Bass and the Chargers defense will also probably be big in what is expected to be a low-scoring game. The losing squad here will end up in the last place game known as the Dick Butt Bowl, a reference to a very strange meme and a name that Loki Lebowski Thor actually came up with. The irony. Lastly, number 10, Uncle Justy hosts number 11, the Clash at Demon Head in an all-Europa battle at the Water Volcanoes of Colback. The winner will take on number 7, Risky Business, and as expected in a matchup of teams seated so close together, this one's a 50-50 toss-up. The battle at quarterback is big, with Tagovailoa having a worse matchup than Tannehill, giving the advantage to the Clash at Demon Head. Elvin Kamara versus Christian McCaffrey will be a big area to watch here, and Knight against Murray will probably be about who scores a touchdown. The Clash at Demon Head will be looking to limit the advantage at wide receiver with Lamb and Deontay Johnson against Chase and Pickens. Uncle Justy has the edge at tight end with Njoku, but the flex position goes to the Clash at Demon Head with ETN. Maher and the Eagles defense versus Bullock and the Bills defense is certainly an area to watch in what is expected to be a very close ending. The edge goes to Uncle Justy at defense, but to the Clash at Demon Head at kicker. And just like the other match, the losing squad will end up in the Dick Butt Bowl. This is a tournament and anything can happen. Records are out the window. How you got here does not matter. All that matters is how you do this week. Survive and advance. And that's the content for the show. Hope you enjoyed it. Join me Sunday when Green Acres comes on again to discuss his huge Game of the Week win and the quarterfinal battle they'll be in against AR's ayahuasca plant. There are players going on Thursday and Saturday, so we'll see what's going on there. Until next time, salut, and check out the championship playoff bracket before you go.